Hey guys, what's up? I'm here to do a review of the coming-of-age horror. From what I can tell from the trailers, there's maybe some body horror elements in the film. Definitely a little bit of psychological horror I could get from the trailers. Film from 2016. I'm of course talking about the French-Belgian-Italian co-production Raw, also known as Grave. Grave being the original title of the film. So, I've had my eye on this film for quite a while. Ever since I heard last year when it was like screening at, I think somewhere in like maybe somewhere in Europe, they were doing a screening and people were walking out of the theater and vomiting. And from then on, there was big publicity surrounding the film and surrounding those incidents happening in some foreign country. At a screening in some foreign country, and then they started to like give out vomit bags with the movie, and I think it's a really I love kind of stuff like that about movies. Even if it does overhype the movie, I do know the film probably isn't going to make me feel sick because I'm fairly desensitized to violence and gore. So yeah, I love it when movies kind of do that. For instance, I mean, it kind of pisses me off when mainstream horror movies do that. Just because I don't know why it pisses me off more when that happens. Like when they did the thing with The Conjuring last year, how that guy apparently died in a screening of The Conjuring 2, and then his corpse went missing. Very strange stuff. But yeah, the movie Raw. This is a coming-of-age horror drama film that from what I've read, it has to do with like sexual awakening. Or something like that. It's an art film. It's a horror art film, and yeah, it's essentially about a brilliant young girl who's like, she wants to be a veterinarian. She's in veterinary school and shit, and she, as part of a hazing ritual, they like dump animal blood on like all the new students and then make them eat rabbit kidneys. And after she eats after she's forced to eat the rabbit kidney, an insatiable hunger for flesh starts to grow within her, and she eventually becomes cannibalistic. It sounds kind of ridiculous and stupid, but I'm willing to give it a shot. And I've heard a lot of great things about this film. I've heard some bad stuff too, but overall, I've heard some really good stuff about this film. I've tried to avoid as much as I could, avoid as many spoilers as possible. Being somebody who spends a lot of time on the internet, that can happen, but I'm starting to fucking ramble now. I was rambling when I was talking about the whole publicity stunt with them giving out vomit bags. So, without further ado, let's watch Raw from 2016, also known as Grave. Okay, so the film opens up promptly with just like a fucking car crash out of nowhere, and it's a legitimately like intense kind of just out of the blue, unexpected moment from the film. So then we meet our protagonist, who, it's really bad I cannot remember her fucking name for the life of me. It really is, because I really hate that I can't fucking remember her name. I'm drawing a blank on it, and I just finished the movie. But she's a teenage vegetarian girl. She's 16 years old. She's going into college to be a vet. And this is a coming-of-age film. It's a film about growing up. And as an adult, that is something I have done, and I'll be honest, I'm still kind of fucking working on. And I can assure you that growing up is not fun. It's hard, it's confusing, but you do get some good stories out of it. Like coming home drunk in a ball gag. So there's this huge fucking hazing ritual that's going on at the college, and it honestly feels like a big home invasion film where people are breaking into a fucking college dorm, and it's again, out of left field, genuinely surprising. I don't want to say shocking, but it's shocking. It's startling. Not shocking in the sense that like it's something super graphic. It's just shocking in the sense that it's something so intense and weird, just happening so quickly. It turns into a big rave, which our protagonist then wanders through aimlessly, just kind of looking at all this shit. She has no idea. She's like 16 years old, and there's people doing fucking ecstasy and just like grinding on each other all around her. She's like, what the fuck is going on? Just like anybody I would in that situation. If I was in that situation, I would be fucking confused as hell and weirded out. The thing I have to discuss first, the few things that I have to discuss first about this film, is the film's very strange kind of atmosphere. And for me to explain the film's kind of atmosphere, I have to, I don't have to go into spoilers, but I have to talk about how the film kind of works. The film uses sudden, strange, confusing kind of events, moments, people, ideas, stuff like that. It uses weird imagery and events such as that big fucking like home invasion thing that turned into a rave to confuse and I hate to say shock the viewer, but to make the viewer feel as confused and as genuinely surprised and shocked as the protagonist is, and I think the film does a very good job of that. It really works in the film's favor, and it even confused and kind of surprised me of all people who, this is me. I'm talking about myself here. I'm not saying I have a high. Oh fuck! I love yawning in the middle of reviews. I'm not saying I have a high opinion of myself because I don't, but I do think that it takes a lot to confuse, shock, or surprise me anymore. And this film does it very well. Again, I'm not saying this has nothing to do with the violence in the film. Let me get that across right now. The film kind of uses more like everyday life kind of like things that would happen in everyday life as the kind of payoff for some of the scares and for some of the weird, confusing moments that are meant to confuse you and the protagonist, instead of using the violence, which I think is a very interesting kind of tool they use. So, yeah, the acting in the film is good, the writing is good, the main character, I would argue, is an immensely relatable character, whether or not you are male or female. You go through stuff like this in life. Not necessarily the whole becoming a cannibal thing, or anything like that. I mean, you go through similar situations whether or not you're male or female. I do think, however, this film is meant to be very much about a kind of female sexual empowerment and very, very much a feminist film. I get that feeling. It's about, sexual empowerment amongst women, and stuff like that. I'm no expert, but I think that's what this film is trying to get across. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to try and read into it too much. So, everything in this movie from a technical standpoint, you have the lighting, sound mix, camera work, stuff like that, is good. There are moments that use like really weird, interesting, kind of intense lighting of just one specific color. Sometimes to give the film a kind of dreamlike, eerie feeling. Like I said, the film is very well shot, and there are nice shots of like landscapes. And I think this was filmed in France. I cannot be too sure if it was. If it was, they used a really good. They're good at using the French landscape during some of the outside scenes, because there's a few scenes that take place on this like long country road that it looks beautiful. It's like something you would see in a fucking painting if somebody took a picture of it in black and white. It really is lovely, and like I said, there are scenes with some stylized lighting. And there are even scenes that aren't meant to be really super surreal, like weird or dreamlike, that have some stylized lighting that looks really good. The film has some really good music. I would not say it is on par with the soundtrack to The Witch or the soundtrack to It Follows or Under the Skin, those being some of the best I've heard of the last few years, but it is still really, really, really good. The film's use of gore is really good, and goddamn, it doesn't overuse the gore in the film to where it stops being surprising and shocking and gross and starts to just become like silly. It doesn't overuse it. It uses it in the right amount, and the right amount to where the scenes can still have some level of impact. Surprisingly, in this film, there's a little bit of comedy thrown in, and it actually, I would say, works very well. It's decently funny at times without stretching itself too thin or letting any genre overstay its welcome. I have to say, the film does a really good job at shifting the tone from a kind of dark horror film to a drama to a comedy without it wearing itself thin or laying too heavy on one specific genre. Although I will say horror is the predominant genre throughout the entire film. And I'll say right now, this is one of those movies that it's best to know nothing about going in. Like, going in completely blind is the best thing about this film. If I would have done a little more research into this film, I don't think this film would have been as genuinely surprising and startling for me personally if I would have known about it. It's very much a go in blind kind of movie. The less you know about the film, I would say, the better. And I'm happy I didn't do any major research into the film and accidentally spoil something for me. I would compare this film to the German kind of drama comedy gross out film Wetlands, which was a really gross, weird, funny, kind of fucked up comedy about a girl who is just like obsessed with not having any fucking personal hygiene, and she's also obsessed with sex, and it's really gross. And I would kind of compare. I would say this is like the horror version, just replace like not ever cleaning your fucking vagina to eating people. On the gore meter from 1 to 10, 1 being something like Nosferatu and 10 being something like Peter Jackson's Brain Dead, Raw is a 3 out of 10. It is honestly fairly weak when it comes to the gore. There are a couple scenes that are like, I would say a little graphic or decently graphic, but overall, I honestly don't think anybody would ever get sick in the theater watching this movie. This isn't Blood Feast. This is 1963. This is stuff we're all used to seeing in horror movies, and it's here. It's here. It's heavy. Not heavy. I mean, it's not heavy. I'm fucking dying right now because it's nearly 2 a.m. and I'm recording this. The film is very much like a less goofy and surreal version of the Richard Bates Jr. film Excision. It's like the main character of Excision, Pauline, learned French and then became a cannibal, really. That's what this film is. I honestly absolutely adore this film for almost every aspect of it. It's very well shot, it's well written, it's genuinely unsettling and creepy and startling, and it doesn't overuse the fucking violence in the film. It uses it just the right amount to keep it gross, but not go too over the top or campy with it. And I honestly think that while I love this film, some people might think it's a little too artsy, and I can definitely see that. Some people might think it's not graphic enough of a film, which I mean, if it was more graphic, I feel like that would distract from some of the kind of like, again, I'm going with the pro-feminist messages, but the like pro-feminist messages in the film, or go against just like the film not trying to be a super gross out film in the first place. And it might be a little too French of a movie for some people. What do I mean by that is it might be a little too sexually explicit, because there are a couple pretty raunchy little scenes. Raunchy as in like just a little sexually explicit or something like that. Not raunchy as in like it's goofy because it's gross. That's all for this review. I really should fucking stop because I'm dying over here. I have no fucking the life support systems on my house are fading away, and we are all dying in here. Anyway, guys, this has been Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews. I'd give this movie a 9 out of 10. I would highly recommend you check it out, as long as you're okay with reading fucking subtitles and okay with the movie being a little artsy. I would highly recommend you give it a watch. I genuinely loved this movie. This is Biscuit Boo Horror Reviews signing off. Peace.